there's been an explosion of research recently which has shown just how important it is in relation to a range of other physical and mental health conditions. And it's got a lot of media coverage. You've probably seen some of it because it is now actually the most researched nutrient out there. And we are starting to see lots of implications, particularly in relation to its deficiency, but also what happens when we also get enough. So high levels of vitamin D have now been associated with lower levels of various different types of cancer, as well as metabolic conditions like insulin resistance and abdominal obesity. So it's really important, but there are still some misconceptions out there about this very important vitamin. And if you want to make sure that you're getting enough, there are a few things probably that it's worth knowing. So to start with, vitamin D is actually more properly classified as a hormone rather than a vitamin. That's because of the way it's produced in the body, the actions it has, and also the fact that all cells in the body, apart from our skeletal cells, have vitamin D receptors. So that gives us a clue as to why it's so important in the body if every cell needs it. So it's called the sunshine vitamin because it's produced by a form of cholesterol that we store just underneath the surface of the skin when it is affected by sunlight. But the UVB rays that we need in order to stimulate the production of vitamin D are only strong enough at certain times of the year. So in the UK, because of where we are, that's only between April and September, and probably only really during the middle of the day. A top tip in terms of how you can tell whether you're able to produce vitamin D from the sun is just to look at how long your shadow is. So basically, if your shadow is shorter than you are tall, then the sun is high enough, and if it's longer, it probably isn't. So what that means is that we need to be outside. We need to be regularly getting exposure to the sun in order to stimulate the production. And whilst everyone is different, because things like your skin tone and your age do have an impact on how well you can produce vitamin D, on average, it's only about 15 minutes at the right time of day that we need in order to get the production that's optimal for the body. But it does need to be the kind of sort of the face and the arms and the shoulders exposed without any kind of sun protection, because even at very low levels of SPF, UVB is blocked completely and can't penetrate the skin. So because we're out there without protection, it only needs to be a short amount of time, and obviously we need to be careful that we don't burn or redden as a result. If you're someone that perhaps isn't into the habit of getting out in the sunshine regularly in order to get vitamin D protection, there's a sheet that you can download. It's called Getting the Sunshine Habit, with a few top tips just in terms of how you can make sure this becomes part of your daily routine. So what can we do in terms of what we eat to support our vitamin D levels? Well, there are two types of vitamin D. D3 is what is formed under our skin and also what we can find in animal products. And D2 is produced by yeast and fungus when they are also exposed to UVB light. But both of those forms of vitamin D have to be converted within the body, in the liver and the kidneys, into the forms which are biologically active or available to us. And a number of the enzymes that are involved in that process all require magnesium. So if we're not eating enough magnesium in the diet, it's possible that we're not making the most of the vitamin D available to us. It's used by over 600 different enzymes in the body and is a fundamental role in lots of processes. So in terms of eating enough, we need to look at good sources. So nuts would be important. We also need to think about green leafy vegetables because magnesium is actually part of chlorophyll. And we can also think about whole grains. So brown rice is a good example. For the average woman, you'd be looking at a cup of cooked rice and a cup of cooked spinach and probably about 28 grams of almonds. And an average man would probably need another one of those portions to get enough. So it's actually eating quite a lot of foods that are rich in magnesium. So when it comes to eating vitamin D itself, however, D is really for difficult because current government guidelines are that we should be taking in every day about 10 micrograms or 400 international units, as they're known, of vitamin D. But there are very few really rich sources of vitamin D available to us. And of those, we probably need to eat quite a lot to get close. So oily fish is a great example, but you'd need 2 portions of oily fish every day to get that level of vitamin D. Eggs are also pretty good, but you'd need 10, again, every day. And the only vegan source of vitamin D would be mushrooms grown in sunlight, but there you're talking 2 kilos. Now, there are fortified foods, so margarines and some non-dairy milks are fortified with vitamin D, but again, it's at a very low level, so you need a really large amount in order to make sure that you are eating enough. Probably a good idea, especially through the winter months, to think about a supplement when it comes to vitamin D, especially if you're somebody who finds it difficult to get outside regularly. It might even be important year-round to top up what you can get from the sun when it's strong enough. So the key takeaways when it comes to vitamin D are that we need to be out in the sun for a short period of time, but regularly when the sun's strong enough. We need to eat as many of the foods that are rich sources as we can, but we also need to think about a supplement through the winter months and maybe even the whole year round, because this very important vitamin has a lot of implications both in terms of physical and mental well-being.